Good morning, everyone. My name is Sandeep Kalra, and I'm the Director of Learning and Events, Vertical at ICF Mumbai Charter Chapter. And I'm privileged to be your host for today. I'm sharing this privilege with my co-host, Tanaya Achareka, who's Director Research Vertical at ICF Mumbai Charter Chapter. We are truly delighted to have you join us today from across the globe. It is both inspiring and heartening to see such a diverse group come together for this session. Thank you for making the time to be here, especially across various time zones, and that too on a Saturday. We deeply appreciate your presence. I must share with you, we have had resounding registration from every ICF chapter in India and several overseas chapters, including ICF Colombo, from where we are grateful to have an exceptional coach, speaker, and thought leader. So the count still continues as we have 150 participants who have registered from 32 cities across 12 countries. So thanks a lot for the support. As we were sharing initially, that at ICF Mumbai Charter Chapter, our endeavor has always been to deliver what our members truly seek, obviously, while staying aligned with ICF's strategic plan. Our objective is simple yet powerful, to provide a superior membership experience that enriches the career journey of professional coaches. We strive to achieve this by creating ongoing and culturally relevant opportunities to connect, learn, network, and volunteer. It gives me indeed great joy to share that through the 5 events under Beyond 10 series, which have been virtual or in person, half day and 1 full day, and 9 webinars of 90 minutes each, we have been able to engage with more than 1,100 participants and almost more than 2,000 expressed their intent by registering from across the globe. This journey of cultivating trust and connection would not have been possible without the unconditional support of our members and the wider audience, whose active participation brought out the very best in every session. This event on ethical coaching delves into ethical consideration in coaching, how we as coaches can uphold integrity, maintain confidentiality, and build authentic, trusting relationship. Let me now invite Sanjeev Bhatia, President of ICF Mumbai Charter Chapter, who is most enthusiastic about supporting these Beyond 10 series of events, to greet you and share his infectious charm and positive energy. Sanjeev Bhatia.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandeep. Well, friends, a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. As a president of ICF Mumbai Charter Chapter, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome you to this event on the Coaching with Ethics. Ethics beyond the code, we are going to talk about negotiating the invisible lines we are going to talk about. First, a big thank you to all of you for showing up at this time. You could have been, especially for Mumbai, at the Juhu Beach on the Saturday morning, or watching Netflix, or maybe in the afternoon for those who have the afternoon, or maybe doing your deep work while secretly scrolling through the social media. That's we all do. Instead of that, you chose to sharpen your ethical thinking, which makes you a rare species in this world. Coaches who not only talk about values, but also practice them. And that's the great side of coaches. And to our speakers, thank you for leading us through your wisdom. We know coaches love telling stories. So we are expecting insights wrapped in your drama, suspense, and maybe even the happy ending. And to our organizing team, yes, thank you for your Herculean efforts. I suspect at least two of you survived on a diet of caffeine and WhatsApp messages to make this possible. You did it. Well, friends, now it's about ethics. Ethics is the backbone of our profession. We all know it. Without it, coaching could be quickly turned into giving unsolicited advices. Okay, I have someone. Just hold on, please. So, what I personally believe that sometimes even our family members may have realized that told us we are very good at it, giving advices. The code of ethics is there to guide us, but let's face it, the life doesn't give us the things in black and white. That we are always in dilemmas. It's often the messy shades of gray, and on a bad day, sometimes the filthy shades of gray, isn't it? So let me share a personal story because I'm also a coach. I was once coaching a very senior leader who is in the middle of the session, suddenly revealed a massive piece of information. Sometimes that could change his company's entire strategy. Now, picture me sitting there, smiling on the outside, but inside, I suddenly had an angel on my right shoulder and devil on my left shoulders. The angel whispering that Sanjeev, confidentiality is the secret. Protect your client's trust. On the devil side, it muttered, yes, but the sponsor is paying for this. What about them? Meanwhile, I sat thinking inside, why didn't I become a yoga teacher, which I have started recently, and been thinking which leg to be first, the right or the left? Well, we are into dilemmas. At that moment, the code was very clear for me. Confidentially belongs to the client, but navigating the invisible line, the relationship with the sponsor was the real test for me at that time. And that's what I recollect at the moment. Yes, I chose to protect my client's trust while still trying to have the transparency by not disclosing the conversation with the sponsors about the progress. We all do this. But yes, sometimes we find we are at the crossroad. So today we explore ethics beyond the codes, and let's remember it's not about thinking box. It's about conscious choice or ticking box, but it's about conscious choice. It's not about avoiding wrong. It's about actively doing the right things. And when in doubt, pause, reflect, and if needed, laugh before deciding. That's what I do. As a coach, our impact is measured not just by the goals of our clients achieved, but by integrity with which we stand beside them. And we know that. And if we can carry both ethics and humor with us, we will not only be better coaches, we might even be happier ones ourselves first. So thank you once again for being here. Let's dive in and explore those invisible lines together. I have a list of seasoned coaches coming from different parts of the world. Believe me, I am eagerly looking at. I know some of them personally. For some, I am going to meet them first time. But yes, each one of them are going to be gems of wisdom. Interact with them, ask them, and don't leave them, please. Have a good time. Thank you once again, and welcome to all. Over to Sandeep. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjeev, for your wonderful opening remarks, which is setting the tone, and also your story, which provided clarity regarding whenever we face these invisible lines, how to deal with the ethical dilemma. And I see the number is growing. I'll again request each one of you to keep introducing yourself in the chat. And as we begin with the proceeding, so for today's session, we will receive 4.5 core competencies. We'll post a claim form towards the end of the session to claim your CCUs. It will also be emailed to you after the webinar. You have 2 days to fill up the claim form. That is till 25th August to make your claims. Participants who are eligible will receive their CCUs by 10th September. Welcome to this virtual event in Beyond 10 series. As mentioned, today's theme is Coaching with Ethics, Building Trust and Integrity. In our hosting team, besides myself and Tanaya, we also have Nandini helping us with admin and tech. Nandini works very closely with the ICF Mumbai Charter Chapter Managing Committee. A few hygiene factors, even at the cost of reputation. Kindly keep yourself off camera and be on mute. This is to avoid disruption in the transmission that could be caused due to bandwidth issue. During the session, if you have a burning question, please put it in the chat box. And Tanaya will share with our speaker or curate them for the QA segment, which is during and at the end of each session. We will also request all the participants to come on camera for a group photograph, which will be after the master class. And we will make announcement for that. We will also launch a quick feedback poll after the QA session. And we also invite, in case if you want to stay after the session for 10-15 minutes for networking and sharing, in case if we do not exceed the session time. So let us get on with the theme and the flow of sessions today. Beyond 10 series is about celebrating coaching. And that is why we had this theme when we were looking at the proper title for celebrating 10th year anniversary starting from March this year. Today's theme, Coaching with Ethics, Building Trust and Integrity. And today's session is a virtual half-day event, which marks the 5th of the series of Beyond 10. Monthly virtual and in-person. We have had 2 in-person events, and this celebration started after completion of 10 years in March 25. So our sessions begin in a few minutes with keynote address from 10 a.m. to 10:30, titled The Moral Compass of Coaching, Why Ethics Matter More Than Ever. And our speaker is VANDANA SHEJWAL, MCC, who's also Vice President HR in HDFC ERGO. We have a very celebrated speaker delivering the opening masterclass, starting at 10:35 up to 11:45 a.m. And the title of this masterclass is Invisible Lines, Navigating Boundaries, Confidentiality and Integrity in Coaching. And we are fortunate to have our facilitator, none other than Shweta Harnagupta, MCC, and Chair ICF Global Enterprise Board. Then we shall launch our August issue of ICF Mumbai Charter Chapter's popular newsletter, Voice, with a special message from our director publication, Naveen Toro, based in US. And at this point, let's all take a 15-minute real break to this virtual session and reflect and stretch. Feel free to grab some tea or coffee straight from your own pantry, of course. And yes, I can already see and hear your smiles. This is then followed by a unique fireside chat from 12:25 to 1:25 p.m. with a panel of two very credentialed coaches and an award-winning industry professional. The fireside chat is titled Trust is Earned, Real Conversations on Ethical Crossroads in Coaching. This is an insightful dialogue and conversation with Anushli Seethaparam, PCC from ICF Colombo, Sabitha Natraj, Chief General Manager, Indian Oil Corporation Limited, and Gunjan Sinha, PCC. This brings us close to the end, but as they say, dessert is always delightful and serves to warm the satiated soul. The closing keynote, titled Walking the Talk, Building an Ethical Infused Coaching Practice, or I would say lifestyle, is being delivered in his own inimitable style and manner by a very distinguished Mr. Mohammad Asad Pathan, former Chairman, Indian Oil Corporation, and Resident Director, Tata Group, who has a lifetime of lessons and wisdom to share about the essence of ethical life as a leader. So please don't miss on this showstopper. We hope to have time to hear from you all after the final session and close with your voices resonating the precious learning lessons right across the day. May I now invite my co-host Tanya Achrekar to take it forward by introducing our keynote speaker. Tanaya, over to you.
Thanks, Sandeep. Yeah, good morning, everybody. And let's get started with the sessions for today that I'm sure you have been waiting eagerly for. So it's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker for the day, Vandana Shejwal. She's been extremely patient and joined us in advance to be all set for this opening session today. She's a human resources professional with over 25 years of rich experience. She currently leads culture, coaching, and employee value proposition portfolio at HDFC ERGO, General Insurance. Prior to this, she was a Chief Human Resource Officer for Capital India Finance Limited and led the HR function for the group. She has led HR function at Daiwa Portfolio Advisory India Private Limited, Brick Securities Limited as well in the past. She has also worked with Kotak Mahindra Old Mutual Life Insurance Limited, Medley Pharmaceuticals, and ABC Consultants. Vandana is an MBA in HR and holds a diploma in training and development from the Indian Society for Training and Development, ISTD, New Delhi. Vandana has her MCC, that is Master Certified Coach certification from ICF, and has been an internal coach. Vandana has also received 100 HR Super Achievers in India Award and 101 Top Coaching Leaders in India Award from the World HRD Congress. With that, I want to welcome you, Vandana, and we're eagerly waiting for your words of wisdom. So I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you so much, Tanaya. Am I audible? Okay. I want to share the slide. I hope that's okay. Would I be able to do that?
Yes. Yes, now it is.
Yeah, now.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And it's such a great pleasure to be with ICF Mumbai Chapter for such an interesting topic on coaching and ethics. This is such a topic which is so close to the heart of everyone, all coaches, and yet there is very little that gets talked about beyond code of ethics by ICF. So we've seen that, we talk a lot in terms of, okay, how to pass the exam, how to study to become an ICF coach. But once we start practicing, we do not hear so much getting discussed. One is also, of course, because there is confidentiality. You can't reveal the things that we discuss with the coaches and clients. But it's also about, there is that hesitation. So we thought, compliments to Mumbai Chapter for bringing up such a beautiful topic for this event. And I thank Sandeep and everyone at ICF Mumbai Chapter for inviting me to be here. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. So the topic is the moral compass of coaching, and the tagline, why ethics matter more than ever. All of us have a moral compass. Sometimes we are aware of it, sometimes we may not be aware of it. And the tagline, why ethics matter more than ever, is not an accident. It's increasingly complex coaching landscape that we experience. It is becoming complex day by day. So ethics is not just the guidelines. It's the true north. It's the foundation of trust, and foundation of not just the trust, but the credibility and impact as well. So let's begin this journey together. So what I want to speak to you today, it's not the ethics in theory. What I want to do today with you is reflect. And let's reflect together in terms of what have we experienced so far in terms of ethics? What do we practice? And how do we allow our compass to guide us? And are we increasingly becoming aware of the compass?
You need to get into presentation mode.
Yes, I will.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to start with a quote. This is by American lawyer and a judge. And he says, ethics is knowing the difference between what you have a right to do and what is right to do. So basically, knowing the difference is very, very important. We may get just stuck. We may get confused between these two. And very often it happens. And all of us may have faced this some point of time or the other. So let's pause. Let's just sink in. In coaching, we are granted the rights, the position of power by virtue of we being a coach. So we have a position, we have the kind of some coaches may feel that as an authority and the expertise. But just by being an expert in coaching doesn't give us that power and the authority. It's the level playing field. We are partners with the coachee or the client. So the question is, are we always choosing what is right when no one is watching? There is the client and us, only two of us. So what do we do in that space? Are we aware of our moral compass in that space? So while there is confidentiality, there is, so we don't really share anything, even when there is a sponsor in place, there is a corporate or the organization in place, there is a tripartite agreement in place. That puts us all the more responsibility on us to make sure that we are aware of our ethics and moral compass. So why does it matter? Why ethics in coaching matter? It matters because it builds trust with clients and the organization. For a coach, it's very, very important to build their credibility. Once you lose your credibility, there is no going back. There is no returning back. Not only with the client, but with the organization. And hence, it is important to have that balance. It protects everyone, not just yourself, but the clients and the profession. Such a noble cause. I feel coaching is such a noble cause. It's about giving to the society, to the humanity. And hence, protecting everyone is very, very important. It creates long-term impact, not only in the personal space, but the organizational growth as well. So I have had the opportunity and of experience in coaching at various levels. As a student of coaching, as a coach myself, and also being the, holding the portfolio of coaching in the organization, spearheading coaching as a culture in the organization. So from that lens, I can say with confidence that it creates an impact. Everyone has that responsibility to hold that space, to recognize the moral compass. Now, here is what is important. What you can see is visible is the code. Okay, we all know what is the code of ethics by ICF Mumbai. And that's the supreme, that's the foundation for all of us. But do we know what is invisible? What are the ethical considerations? There are confidentiality dilemmas, there is conflict of interest, and also the sensitivities involved. If coachee or the client shares something, do we share back with the sponsor? If there is a conflict of interest, what do we do? Are you aware of the boundaries that you have? Let's say you have a dual relationship with the client. Whether the client knows about it or doesn't know about it. Are there agreements? Remotely, are you connected with the client in some way? Some shareholding, some remote connection, or there is a direct connection. In all cases, how do you hold that boundary? Make sure that you don't cross the line. And cultural and societal sensitivity. This is something that we may take it for granted. We may not be aware that there are sensitivities involved. Every culture will have a different sensitivity. The way you come across, the way you speak, the way you behave, the way you even shake hands, everything matters. So it's important that we go beyond the code. Code, of course, is supreme. It's the foundation. But it's important to know what is beneath, what is the invisible part of the iceberg. Now, the second part, why ethics matter more than ever, is because it is becoming complex day by day. The rise in virtual coaching, the use of AI-assisted tools, and the increasing organizational expectations for responsible coaching. The organizations now are becoming more aware of coaching. Gone are the days when, some people would go for coaching, whoever could afford it. Now we see a lot of coaching in organizations, sponsored by organizations, a lot of high potentials, coaching getting woven into the talent journeys, leadership journeys. It is happening very, very frequently. As far as I'm concerned, in my organizations, coaching is part of all the leadership journeys. All high potentials go through it. And we do not restrict it to only performers. It is available to everyone. Now then, there are the gray areas with the complex coaching context. Like Sanjeev said, how do you make sure that you understand those gray areas and don't cross those boundaries? Do you let the coachee or the client know that you are either recording the session or are you using the transcript? It's important to let them know about it. There is something that I try to create on my own and see if there is some kind of framework that we can arrive at. Integrity is at the core. Honoring confidentiality, staying aligned to the values over convenience. Am I breaking the trust? Am I building the trust? Is very, very important. Authenticity. No masks and no performance. If you wear a mask, the client will also wear a mask. If you do it for performance, the client will know. Just because we have the expertise doesn't give us the right to just show our performance, because the client will know very clearly and they will not be their true self. Perfection is not important. Just being ourselves, our presence is important. And if we are honest, the clients will feel safe. There's psychological safety that the clients will face. The third thing, service, is very, very close to my heart. We do a lot of coaching for a cause in our organization. But otherwise also, even when you charge, I feel it's a service. It's giving back to the clients, to the humanity, and to the society. Are we valuing the client's growth, or are we only driving our own agenda? Am I adding value to their journey, or am I interested only in enhancing my business? It's very important to ask that question to ourselves all the time. And being aware of the boundaries. Know where the coaching ends. This is just basic. I mean, we've learned this when we were going through our training. But for those who may not be from coaching areas, we don't step into therapy or consulting or any other areas outside coaching. If we have to do it, then we go outside the coaching session and do it, but not in the coaching session. manage power dynamics. You're not the authority, you're not powerful, or vice versa. If the client is powerful, has the authority, are you becoming nervous because of that? And staying within the ethical lines, not crossing the territory. And at the core of all of this is my own responsibility towards both the client, the organization, and the profession. All of us have come across some real life scenarios or the other. And is there a rule book? Is there a playbook that gives you all answers? No. It's for us to figure out during our journey in terms of how do we take those calls? What decisions do we take in each coaching conversation? Disclosures, very, very important. Confidentiality, very, very important. Not crossing the boundary when there are dual relationships. And not pressurizing or compromising coaching principles for business outcomes. Do we stay true to the spirit of coaching? Do we end the coaching contracts when you feel that you are not being ethical, or this relationship is going elsewhere? It's very, very important. And like I said, there is no rule book, there is no guideline, there is code of ethics, but it's for us to figure out. What do we do? The road might look hazy, foggy, but there are tools and practices that are available for us. There is help that we can take. Of course, there is confidentiality. But we can always go for peer supervision, mentoring, reflect, journal on a regular basis, and sharpen the saw, continuous learning. I feel even after becoming an MCC, I need to continuously learn. Have those conversations with people. And most importantly, am I being self-aware? Only if I am being self-aware, I'll be able to reflect. Just want to talk about a little bit about living ethics in coaching, my journey. So in my journey as a MCC coach, the ethics has been a silent partner. Mastery is just not about getting those number of hours or passing those exams or doing level 3. It's about, am I living the ethics on a day-to-day basis? Am I demonstrating those coaching competencies on a regular basis? And it becomes part of my DNA. It becomes, I am living the code and it doesn't sit outside me. I feel I have achieved a real mastery only if I am really demonstrating all that is required or expected out of me, whether it is competencies, whether it is code of ethics, everything. I hold the portfolio. I am responsible for the culture portfolio at HDFC ERGO. And I've seen that we've made a good progress in the last 3 years in terms of doing a lot of work in the space of coaching. But all that has not come easily. There is a lot of hard work that has gone into it. At the core of it, at the foundation of it, has been the confidentiality, trust. Whether providing coach training to people, or whether coaching people, creating a coaching culture in the organization, democratizing coaching in the organization, or institutionalizing coaching in the organization. At the heart of everything is ethics. Without that, it is just not possible to have a coaching culture in the organization. And courage, of course, to hold those ethical lines. Not speed up. Creating a coaching culture just doesn't happen in just few months' time. I may feel that, okay, I want to just rush with creating a coaching culture because it looks good. No, I would make sure that we are slow but steady, but making sure that we are having the real impact on the businesses, on the employees, overall culture of the organization. So coaching without ethics is a technique, but with ethics, it's transformation. So with ethics, We transform lives, but we transform lives responsibly. So I feel it has been my guide, very, very strong pillar in everything that I've done in coaching. Of course, and why I have kept later? Because all of us know this. It's the foundation, not a ceiling. It's a shared language. It is important because, yeah, one is, of course, we go through this at the beginning of our career as a coach, but it's important to go back to it every now and then. While navigating complex client situations, whenever we come across any confusing situations where we want to take decisions and we want to reflect. Now, how do we make sure that we live the code in coaching practice? Before the sessions, this is just some practical part of it. Agreements, signing the agreements, making sure there are boundaries in place, and letting them know about it. During the sessions, making sure throughout there is no bias. There is not our own agenda that we are driving. There is balance of confidentiality and reporting with the organization, especially, and I have seen this, that a lot of coaches get confused. What should get reported? And where do I make sure that I keep that confidentiality? The client is asking for the details. Do I give those details? You cannot, of course, share what got discussed. But of course, there is organization agenda. There are expectations. How can you balance that? How can you make sure that the conversation details are not shared? But overall, whenever there is a so generally there are 3 to 4 touch points at the beginning of the sessions when there is an input from the reporting manager through the sponsor, the basis the inputs, the goals are created, and of course, coachee decides their goals. There is midway in the journey, there is a touch point, and towards the end of the journey, again, there is a closure. How do we make sure that all of it is done well without harming anyone, without making sure that the coachee or the client is not suffering in the process? And of course, as professionals, it has to be a continued journey, very clearly a continued journey, supervision, making sure that we keep learning, keep in touch with the other coaches in the industry, learn from them, reflect on a continuous basis. Does checklist help? I actually don't believe in the checklist. But for those who want to have that, here it is. Before the session, during the session, after the session. So this is the moral compass in action. Am I coming into this session as my authentic self? A lot of people do the grounding exercise. You would have seen, I am not sure. Even coaches, trainers do it. They do the grounding exercise, and not only do they do a grounding exercise, they also ask the client to do the grounding exercise, of course, with their permission. Both of them do the grounding exercise. Make sure, and you don't have to be really spiritual to do that. It helps you to come into the session without any biases, making sure that you don't hold any other, anything else that's impacting you. All of us are living in this complex world. And what happens is that what has happened to us in the previous situation, something else that we were doing impacts us in this moment. So making sure that we come into the session without holding any of those grudges, any of those biases, or anything else. Our day may not have been good. It's important to keep some time between your previous session and the coaching session that you are getting in. Be your authentic self without masks or without the need to prove to yourself. Have I created a safe and confidential space for the client? Is the client constantly thinking whether I should share? That means you've not created a psychological safety for the client. Making sure that your authentic self, yourself, that will give confidence to the client that, they can share. One of the ways is also about listening, which is also getting into another competency, but making sure that you are there for the client. And having absolute clarity on their role as a coach. We've seen coaches sometimes crossing that boundary. Oh no, he's asking me for the advice. Sometimes coaches, the clients will say that, you are so senior, can you give me some advice? Are you able to hold yourself, catch yourself in that moment and not cross that line? And increasingly, you have a lot of clients who go through anxiety, stress, depression. And you're not a therapist. You don't have that certification with you. What do you do in that case? Do you buy, unknowingly, are you getting into that space? It's very, very important to be self-aware. And for self-awareness, a lot of coaches do of course, get into meditation, do those grounding exercises. So this is just a preparation. What do we do in the session? Am I listening deeply? Or am I just listening just to respond? Am I holding the space without judgment? Am I staying aligned with my values and integrity? Even in tough moments, there can be too many tough moments in that space. Am I respecting the client's autonomy and boundaries, or am I pushing my agenda on them? Am I giving solutions? And what about adding value to their journey? Or am I serving my own agenda? Everyone should grow. That's very clear. Am I attentive to any ethical dilemmas, or I get so engrossed in the coaching session that I just completely forget about my ethical dilemmas? It's very, very important to be aware. After the session, do I maintain that confidentiality of everything that gets shared? In our enthusiasm and sometimes unknowingly with a friend, do we end up sharing something? It's very important to be constantly aware of that. Do I need to reflect or seek supervision? Seeking guidance, supervision, advice is very, very important. Sometimes we may not know the answer. We may get confused. It's all right to seek advice without revealing the details, making sure that you don't share the details of the client. And do I honor the spirit of service and contribution to the client and to the society? Am I keeping my practice accountable to the ICF Code of Ethics? It's supreme. Like I said, it's foundation. How do I take decisions? Sometimes it's okay to draw a tree, a decision-making tree, and see what is right, what is not. Identify, write down, journal. What is the ethical dilemma? Reflect on the values, your own values, clients' values. Consult the ICF Code of Ethics, peers. And take actions which are aligned to the ethical principles. It's important. I think I am okay even to go back to the drawing board, to the book, and write down what is my dilemma. This I have already spoken about. How do you uphold the confidentiality while addressing the safety? Especially when client shares the sensitive information. HDFC ERGO. We have a hashtag, we have a employee value proposition which is grow with HDFC ERGO, which is also aligned with our global philosophy and principles. I feel in coaching, everyone should grow. We should have that growth as a lever. It enhances our credibility. It enhances our reputation. It encourages self-reflection and personal growth and drives positive. I have already spoken about it, but growth cannot be only for a coach. It needs to be for the client. It needs to be for the organization always. So whose agenda are we driving? Are we doing for ourselves? Are we doing it for the larger humanity and the society? again, I will repeat, I feel coaching is such a noble cause that it helps us help the humanity, help ourselves and everyone around us. And like our own philosophy in our organization, everyone can grow. So ethics is foundational. There is no option. We have no option whether we can be ethics, whether coaching can be ethics or without ethics. There is no option. It is the basic. It is the foundation. It's the moral compass. Navigating both visible and invisible ethical lines, making sure that you're aware of it all the time. And use a moral compass framework. Create your own framework. You don't have to go for anything that you see on the internet. And building trust, credibility, and impact. This is very, very important. Let's reflect. When faced with an ethical dilemma, how do you decide? What do you do? Every single time there is an ethical dilemma, how do you decide? Do you self-reflect? Do you consult peers? Do you look at code of ethics? Or is there anything else that you do? And it's important to get into these kinds of reflections before we get into the coaching sessions, after the coaching sessions, and even before the next coaching session. What do we do in between is also very, very important. Ethics is the heartbeat of coaching. And when in doubt, follow your moral compass. That's all that I have. There is lots that I can talk about as far as ethics is concerned. But I think ethics is more about practicing, experiencing, reflecting than anything else. We can go on talking about it till eternity. And I will not be, I mean, this topic is so close to my heart that I can go on talking forever. But I pause here. I would like to continue these conversations with you all beyond this session. Please feel free to connect with me anytime after the session also. And I'm here for the rest of the sessions also. That's it from my side. Thank you everyone for listening patiently.
Thank you. Thank you, Vandana. It was brief, yet a very deep, I think, seed that you have sown with us at the opening of this day. Two things that really have stuck with me is the framework that you created and the checklist. And I think somebody has asked, for the checklist in the chat as well. So that was very interesting. And I think all of us so much resonate with what you said is that we all study ethics when we start our coach training, but it is so important to go back and then keep revisiting them, because then over a period of time we develop our own coaching style, and it's important to go back to the roots. So thank you so much for that insightful, deep, a reflective session. What a session opener today. So with that, I request Nandini to share on the screen, and we will email this to you, our certificate of appreciation for sparing your time, sharing your knowledge, sharing your experience with us today. So we cannot be more grateful. And as Sanjeev said, we look forward to seeing you as a part of the ICF Mumbai Charter Chapter soon. Thank you so much for your contribution and time again.
Thank you so much, Tanaya. Thank you. And thank you everyone at ICF Mumbai Chapter. I must compliment you guys for putting up such a great show and for all the efforts that I can see in the last few months. Thank you so much for having me.
And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Dexter to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you so much, Vandana. Thank you, Tanaya. I have the immense pleasure of welcoming Shweta Handagupta, who is quite a legend in her own career already. We have her speaking on invisible lines, navigating boundaries, confidentiality, integrity, and this is a masterclass. Shweta, welcome. We are so happy to have you. Shweta is an MCC and she's a fellow of the Institute of Directors. She currently coaches business leaders and promoters from a whole lot of top Indian business houses and Fortune 500 companies worldwide. So we're really privileged to have you here. So she's the chairperson of the ICF Global Enterprise Board, which, as you all know, provides strategic leadership and direction to the ICF Global Leadership Team and their 6 family organizations. Shweta is also the co-founder of Quadrabrain Transformation Solutions, and she can probably tell you why it's called that, which specialize in making complex change simple. That's the challenge for today too, in terms of making this complex or layered and nuanced topic as simple for us to understand. And in many ways, Vandana has set the tone for that. So Shweta leverages her expertise and experience and has published research in business psychology and applied neuroscience. So maybe we can tap her for that at some other stage too. Her experience includes leadership roles at IBM and as a CEO of an Indian business group. So she's not just a coach over here. Shweta, I'd love to talk more about you, but I also want everybody to hear from you. So I'm going to hand over to you, Shweta, and we are all going to enjoy listening to you. And thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Dexter. Hearing you talk about me made me realize what a dangerous place LinkedIn is. Because you could find a lot of information out there. But thank you for that very kind introduction. And thank you for having me here today. I mean, it is such a privilege to be here talking about a topic that's close to my heart and that's, complex in its own way and very simple. So like I say, the understanding of ethics is complex. And sometimes the living of ethics is simple. It's doing the right thing every time. That said, I'm going to make it very complex for you guys. So just, and thank you, Vandana, for that beautiful, I love the moral compass. I think Vandana's already set the stage for us today and given us so many useful tools and checklists to think about that I actually now feel safe to go about, to not offer you any more easy checklists, right? Vandana's taken care of that. She's taken care of the part that you can actually use and hopefully given me the freedom to bore you for the next hour, inviting you to reflect continuously on who we need to be ethical as coaches and what it means at that level. Dexter, you're on mute. I think you're saying something to me, and
I think you'd like to see everybody on camera as much as possible. Yeah.
Yes.
So my request goes out to everyone. Please come on camera. Shweta would love to see your faces as she's talking.
And yeah, because I have been, much as I hate PowerPoint, I've been advised multiple times that, we need some visual anchors, especially when we're dealing with boring stuff. Are you able to see that little on screen? Because I can't see it. For some reason, I can only see myself. Can everybody else see the slide? Okay, brilliant. And I'm going to figure out how to make sure. And thank you to everyone who's choosing to switch on their cameras. It means a lot to me to be able to see you. And if I just may ask for a minute, technologically, a little challenge to make sure that I can see everyone and I can see my slides, because for some reason I can't.
Oops. Nandini, do you have to take the spotlight off from me or?
I've already done that, Dexter.
Oh, okay.
The spotlight is only on Shweta.
Okay, that most probably is why I can't. Anyway, as long as you guys can see it, I think it helps. So I will at any point of time have no clue what I'm presenting, But hey, life is about accepting ambiguity. So may I invite?
Sorry, Shweta, if we can put it a full slide,
Oh, okay.
that would be nice. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
And now this is not working now. Oops. Sorry, guys. I'm taking too much of a tech thing here, but something seems to have gone off when I went full screen. But like I said, we'll work with what we have today. And I'm hoping all of you can see something called ethical integrity there. The reason why I call it integrity is this. We have enough tools, don't we? We have so many checklists, and I think the ICF has an extensive library alongside the code of conducts on situations, on case studies, on things that you can use to navigate complex ethical scenarios. So today I'm going to invite us to reflect on, like I said, who we need to be to show up as ethical. And that's why this quote that's up there on the slide, ethics isn't just about what we do, it's about who we choose to be. And coaching ethics isn't just about what we should or shouldn't do, it's about who we choose to be with another human being. Can you still see that?
Now the slideshow is down.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought. Something about me. Just give me a second again. Is it back?
Yes, if the slides are back.
Yeah, I think I'll just stay in this mode. I have absolutely no trouble if you can see my little side thing with all the slides that are coming up, because something about the slideshow is not cooperating today. And I want to spend time with you. So let's get back to this. We often associate ethics with right versus wrong, right? With the right way to do things, with what we should do and what we shouldn't do. But one thing I've learned from my experience is that ethical breaches that do the most harm sometimes don't break any of the rules. They cross something else entirely, which is why when I heard about invisible lines and boundaries and beyond the code, I was really excited to be here today. It is rare in my experience for effective coaches to intentionally violate a code. We would imagine that happens very often, but especially in the professional coaching ecosystem, with how deeply ingrained the code is in us, it is actually rare for a well meaning coach to intentionally violate a code. But what happens when we blur out of a boundary of care? Or we offer just a little bit too much of a nudge to our clients? And we imagine that we are being helpful and that we are being of service. Because you see, some of the invisible boundaries actually get crossed when we're trying too hard to be of service. And I'm going to let that thought remain with you for a moment and invite everyone to recall a moment, maybe recent, maybe long ago, when something in your coaching session felt off, where you couldn't pinpoint the rule that you'd broken, but something felt wrong. Take a moment, think about it, and if you feel comfortable, please jot down something for us to learn from in the chat box. Because, hey, I know I'm not the only expert in the room. We're all going to shape this learning together. So please share from your experiences. Because this masterclass is living in the inner terrain, inside you, where your presence, your power, and your responsibility will intersect. So looking forward to reading from your experiences. Anybody has anything to share on a time when something felt off? So maybe hold that and bring it up later when we're feeling a little braver. It happened to me. maybe, I don't like to bring up the personal experiences too soon, but maybe that's what this moment calls for. This was an organizational, multi-stakeholder situation. I was coaching a senior leader within an organization that had hired me. And the sponsor or the manager was very clear that this individual had to step up or move on. That was the brief. Either they step up or they're out. The client, the person I was coaching, was navigating deep burnout and personal grief. He wasn't resisting growth, he was barely holding on. Now, on paper, I followed every rule, contracts were signed, stakeholder goals were clear, but something felt wrong. And Vandana's already shared, you can't break client confidentiality. I can't go and tell the organization, hey, the leaders actually were working through burnout. No, I couldn't do that. But it felt like I was being asked to facilitate alignment when the client really needed space to breathe. And I'm going to share a model with you that really helped me tap into something that I call relational care. To notice and to remind myself that this is a human, not a performance plan. To lean into presence and not pressure. And to ask the right questions for them to figure out what was happening inside them, for them to build the safety to have the conversation with their organization about what they needed and what they could promise. What I avoided there was, what I may have done pretty often in the past, is just saying the right things to avoid, to both parties to avoid the hard truth. Yeah, keep both parties happy and keep things going. And as a result of that engagement, I have learned to make it part of my contracting with organizations, to remind them that when I coach the whole person, the organization will benefit. To kind of put that as a rule in my contract, that I am here to coach the person, to help them believe that I will coach the person, not the problem, not the goal, and help them trust that when I do that, the rest of it will get taken care of. The good news is the client did stay in that organization. He healed, he stepped up. He just took a little more time. And I created a beautiful relationship with the leadership of that organization as they began to revisit how they support their leaders through personal crisis, how they create safe space for their leaders to talk about personal crisis. And I just shared this story here with you because ethics in coaching for me is not just about compliance, it's about congruence. Congruence with all these fancy things we talk about and we like to believe in, and how we actually show up. It's not just about rules, but about relational and systemic responsibility. And I'm going to give you a little more to deal with those heavy words. And it's not just about protection, it's about presence. I swear by presence. Solves a lot of issues in coaching. Which brings me to the next slide here. The 4 dimensions of ethical integrity. Are you able to see those?
Yeah. Shweta, I just wanted to point out that there are 3 interesting comments that have come up since the last question you asked, where one says that we moved from coaching to mentoring and it didn't really help the process because he was in such a hurry to help. Another from Gitanjali says the struggle sometimes is very real and there's a strong cry for help. And those are the difficult times when you as a coach must decide what to do. The human side of you comes and then the coach side says, oh, is that really something you want to do? And Sunita says, somebody said that, okay, in the organization, you need to coach, but then they wanted confidential information. And it came to such a point that she had to walk out from the project.
Wow, thank you. And thank you, Dexter, for bringing my attention to those. Such honest stories. And Sunita, that is exactly what ethical practice looks like. It's about being able to draw the boundaries when we need them. And thank you for those deep reflections, Sandeep. Yes, that realization that mentoring is not what the client needs. And I'll share another story about a question that I often use in the moments where clients, in fact, since you brought it up, a question I love to use these scenarios is ask my client, what part of you wants me to help? Is it the wise part of you? Or what are you feeling right now that makes you feel like you need my help? And that shifts the conversation right back to them. But thank you for bringing out those beautiful moments of ethical querying. And going back now to the 4 dimensions of ethical integrity, there's a reason why I don't like to call it ethical mastery or any of those lovely words. Because, hey, ethics is a lifelong journey of self-realization, self-awareness, as Vandana so beautifully reminded us. It is just ethical integrity, bringing us back to that quote about knowing how we show up as ethics. Now, this model actually draws from philosophical and even therapy-related work of the greats. Relational care, talking about the first one there, it's about accepting that coaching is a relationship. We call it a coaching relationship, don't we? It's a relationship that's rooted in care. And to quote Nell Noddings, whose work this builds on, care is not a feeling. Care is a commitment to act responsibly in response to another. Think about it. In coaching, in your relationships, care is a commitment to act responsibly in response to another. That's what care is. And in coaching, we need to remember to care with our clients, not care for our clients, but to care with our clients. It's about how attuned we are to the client's reality, his mental, emotional, her thoughts, all of them. How responsibly we hold the power in that relationship, because we're not neutral observers. Hey, we learned neutrality as part of our coach training, yeah? But we're human. We have to be more than neutral observers now. We have to be relationally responsible presences. We have to be neutrally accepting to the client context, but we have to be responsible for the relationship that we build there. The questions that this brings up for me as a coach is, am I present enough in this moment to what this client truly needs? Not just what the model says or the code says I should do, but am I present here? Am I seeing the client fully? And the second question that I often ask myself in this context is, do I allow the client to complete the loop with authentic response? Or do I feel the nudge to nudge them a little more? Because you see, when we're talking about that relational care, we have to realize there are 2 parties in that. The one caring, offering presence, attention, responsiveness, and the one cared for who has to respond with trust and openness. Have I created the space for them to respond with that trust and openness? So I'm going to allow you to just sit with that for a moment. How relationally aware are you? Think of any one client context. Do you remain present fully in that coaching session? Because relational care asks, how do I meet the client, not as a case to solve, but as a human to care with? How do I manage my empathy without emotional entanglement? How do I resist the example that Vandana brought out very beautifully, the urge to help at the cost of client agency? When does my rapport overtake the invisible boundaries of friendliness or becoming a validator to my clients? Just some questions there. Moving on now to the second dimension, which is integrity as wholeness. Now, in the next one, I'm going to talk about the wholeness of the client, which is one of my favorite topics. I build that into every talk, but here this is about your wholeness. and embracing that we can bring integrity to any space only when we embrace all the parts of ourselves. The shadows, the bright parts, the good ones, the bad ones. Because ethics is not just ticking boxes, it's about whether your actions align with your whole self. Integrity, in fact, I believe in life is also not always just, it's not moral perfection, it's wholeness. It's living from the deepest truth of who you are, undivided in our inner values and our outer actions. And for that reason, integrity requires that I discern what is integral to my selfhood, what fits, what does not. But what does it mean for us as coaches then? I think what it means is that coaches must do. As coaches, we must do our inner work to show up ethically, to reconcile our dividedness. Because in my experience, a lot of ethical lapses, when I work with coaches who want to go deeper into, despite knowing everything, despite being so well-meaning, they had those ethical lapses. When they're truly willing to embrace that, then ethical lapses often arise from disconnection from self, from not being aware of where I stand on this, what I need to move away from. The trouble is a lot of us live what I think it was Parker Palmer, who philosopher, who described the divided life, where we live one as externally to please, to perform, to conform, and another way internally, which may be filled with doubt or distress. But if you're not dealing with that doubt or distress, it's going to affect your coaching. Because ethics is about alignment. It's not about being good, it's about being real. And I invite you to consider for a moment, where am I coaching from my performative self instead of my whole self? Where in your coaching are you most tempted to perform a role than to be real? Because the congruence that is essential to showing up, to being ethical, to who we are being with our clients, includes all of you, your values, your discomfort, your clarity, your patterns. Without that, one of the traps which I know I often got pulled into, we get trapped into saying what sounds good instead of what's real, of hiding our discomfort to seem competent because we want to be competent, right? And that's the question I'm going to leave you with in this section. Where is the pressure to perform or to be seen as competent interfering with your ability to be fully present to the client?
Shweta, there's a beautiful comment that segues right into what you're saying. Yeah, Prasad says, a lot of times I'm tempted to say something just to fill the pause and the silence. And those are the times I slip into mentoring or comment based on my cognitive bias. And this is one area he says he's focusing on improving. So wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's the real truth I was hoping we talk about. Because you see, what happens is often from something within ourselves. And in a world where people love to celebrate this perfection and greatness in the public domain, the internal pressure is rising, right? And I love, again, to quote Parker Palmer on this, wholeness does not mean perfection. It means embracing the brokenness, which is part of us. In a very recent session I was doing just a couple of days ago for the ICF Pune chapter, I was asked, how do I deal with, the moments of mental turmoil? I was like, I ask for a hug. I said that straight off because, yeah, that's what I do. There are times when I just know I need a hug, and I get that. I've done that in conferences too, but fortunately, coaching conferences, we always have fellow coaches there to give us the hug we need to feel stronger before we step on stage. So just sharing that as a reminder that we all have these broken parts, and just being aware of them and being willing to heal them before we show up in service of our clients allows us to be more ethical in that moment, because ethics is, in its most simplest form, truly serving your client. And we truly serve our client when we bring full presence into that moment. Which brings me obviously to the next and one of my favorite parts, human presence. A lovely quote there from Ashwin, which this time I could notice on my own, feeling very proud of myself. I get distracted by chat, so I usually shut it off. People can only meet you as deeply as they meet themselves. As coaches, we can only meet people as deeply as we meet ourselves. Beautifully said. And human presence is the third part of this little, dabba that I'm sharing with you, because we can follow every rule and still diminish someone by not really seeing them fully, by not really accepting them fully. So before you can be ethical, I'm going to ask all of us to consider, are we able to offer our clients, again, a concept from Carl Rogers here, unconditional positive regards? Are we meeting our clients by embracing them as whole, unique, creative persons capable of solving their own problems? Think about it. Because ethics arise from accepting the client's agency, accepting the client's power. That's the fundamentals of coaching as we learned it, right? But I still find it useful to ask for every client, for every session, am I able to see this client as whole, creative, and capable of finding their own solutions? Not as an object, not as a role, not as a label, not as a goal to be achieved, not as a leader to be fixed, not as a person with poor self-awareness who I need to expand their thinking, but as a human who's capable of finding their own answers. Because where I stand in relation to my client or to you as a person determines how I show up with you. When I accept you as complete, I don't use you, I don't analyze you, I don't fix you. These words, these particular words, don't use you, analyze you, fix you, not mine. They come from another philosopher, Hubert. And a quote here from Carl Rogers again, who I love for the phrase of unconditional positive regard, which for me is the essence of what we bring to clients in our coaching, is when we are real, the client finds within themselves the capacity to become real too. I think that's very close to the beautiful quotation that was put in the chat box. When we are real, we actually create safety and space for the client to be real. It allows us to work with our clients without manipulation, reduction, or projection. And I'm going to invite you to consider, am I relating to my client as a whole person, or have they become a project where I want to demonstrate improvement? Be true. Where does our need for the client to shift become important? Because that's what allows us to feel competent. I created a shift in my client. I created an aha moment. That's what allows us to feel competent as coaches. But when does that start overpowering our presence, our need to create the shifts instead of being fully present to where the client is and how we can help them, how we can serve them? Can I meet this person without judgment, without needing for them to change for me to feel competent? Where are my needs? So in coaching, for me, like I said, it means just being fully present without judgment, without agenda. And even the pressure to create an action plan at the end of a coaching session, that's agenda. I'm saying leave that agenda. And you will. I've been practicing, if I count only the post-training coaching experience like we used to for 18 years now. When we work deeply with the person and embrace exploration, we will move the client forward. We just do that. The invisible lines get crossed when presence is replaced by performance. I think Vandana also brought up that point very beautifully. And I invite you to, some coaching moments where I've noticed that we very easily cross this line is when we start performing empathy. I should feel bad for the client, right? Or we become over-identifying. I've been through this. I know exactly what you're feeling. So just a couple of thoughts there. And moving on, before I get to more practical exercise, the last of these 4 boxes I've put there is systemic awareness. This has become extremely important in the world that we live today, because ethics aren't just personal. Structures shape the reality of the client. Structures shape their experience of coaching. Equity, safety, access, they're all ethical concerns. And a lot of my work, maybe it also comes from that, is also in coaching teams and boards. When we're coaching a team, when we're coaching a group of people, we have to ask ourselves as coaches, whose safety am I protecting? Who's getting left out of this coaching space? As I'm working with this leader or this team, are we also addressing structures and not just interpersonal dynamics? And taking us back to that relational care that we spoke about, who's included in our caring? Who's forgotten? Who's not getting seen at all? And I invite you, whenever you're working with a team or a group of people, to ask yourself, are we considering the power dynamics, the privilege, the cultural context? Are we aware of the voices that we may unconsciously amplify and the voices we just sometimes ignore without realizing? Because we can follow every rule and still unconsciously reinforce harm if we are not tuned into the relational layers, the power dynamics in the teams that we are coaching. And I know these 4 are a lot to take in, so I'm going to pause at this point and just invite you to look at this as a whole. Look at this and consider how it connects to ethics. Relational care invites us to own the responsibility of the relationship, to move from neutral presence to someone who's taking responsibility for that relationship. The integrity of wholeness takes care of, or talks about taking care of the things inside ourselves that are coming in the way of our ability to be truly ethical. Authentic human presence reminds us that to be ethical is to be continuously aware of the client's wholeness, their agency, their ability to find their own answers. And systemic awareness reminds us to notice everything around the context in which we exist, the context in which they exist. And that's it. For me, these are the 4 dimensions of ethical integrity that actually allow us to shape who we choose to be with another human being. Something in the chat there I can...
Yeah, Shweta, there's this thing that goes through, I think, all the 4 quadrants. It says that, and this is from Sandeep, Kalra, CHRO of a very large organization fought with the management to reintroduce coaching, but the senior leaders challenged him, saying that the coaches are repeatedly only asking questions. And he could not face that criticism, so therefore resolved, to bring mentoring into it. Now, I think presence became the need for performance, as you said earlier, and he wasn't able to sustain who he really wanted to be as the CHRO, coach trying to bring in coaching.
Lovely. And, thank you for bringing that up. That's a dilemma that, or a situation we often face. And you've described it so beautifully. What I'm immediately, as a coach, what comes up for me is to invite, ask them for permission or create a space where I could potentially have a conversation with this leader, or enable the CHRO to have a conversation with the leader, and really wonder that I would look here into how are the coaches asking these questions that made it feel like criticism. Or maybe I'm reading that wrong. Maybe the CHRO couldn't face the criticism of the leaders saying they're only asking questions. And then again, I would worry about the questions, the quality of questions that, because in my experience, I usually say, okay, allow me to work with a couple of people and show you what is the shift I can create with those questions. And again, I will remind us that when our questions get limited to the models, when we actually get trapped in the performance pressure of producing a quick action plan, is actually when we derail our coaching. So when, and I'm going to give you the craziest example, creating off the top of my head now. When the client says we want to, and this can be a goal, improve our bottom line by 50%. But back to, if your client says overall coaching goal is improving bottom line, I said 50% is too much, 15%. That's what happens with the example that you're thinking off the top of your head. But say you get a brief like that, then you need to ask the right questions about what needs to change for that to happen. What shifts need to happen for that to be true? And maybe that we go a little more deeply into what that means. And then as we embrace the reality of that, we can have deeper conversations where we work with, like I said, the persons who are going to create that reality. And we can use a lot of these alternative models. Even if it's somatic coaching, I think questions will come in there, because you have to ask questions to invite your client to notice what's coming up in their body. So conversation will always be a part of this. So I'm getting questions in the chat box. I think we'll come to questions in the end. Maybe some of the tools I'm offering you might answer some of those, and we'll come to some of these in the end. But I'm going to invite you to consider once more, as we think of that CHRO dilemma, how could you partner with that CHRO to help them talk about the shift that those questions can enable, or the time frame in which we can enable those questions. A lot of those come from our fears of not being able to trust whether we can create the shifts. And that's one thing I've learned. We can create the shifts if we submit to exploration. The biggest trap there is getting pulled into the story too fast, is not asking, why is this important to you? What needs to shift inside you? What's coming up for you? Those are the quality of questions that we sometimes miss in asking, okay, so what are the options that are available to us? And how could we action plan to get there? It's time to throw out the grow model, guys. It's good as a starting place. It's good as an overall structure, but it's the exploration within each of those parts that's actually going to create the magic, and which will remove all doubts about coaching. But not digressing into that anymore, and just inviting you to notice some of these. The 5 invisible lines that we as coaches commonly cross. Overcoaching, when we lean in too fast to adding value. Yeah, and the scenario you described is a typical scenario where we start doing that and miss what's actually happening there. You know? Was that CEO worried about questions because there was some other ROI pressure on him? Or was it actually a doubt on coaching? What is the relationship between that CHRO and that CEO? Lots of questions, not getting into a systemic consulting lens now. But back to coaching, are we missing what's unfolding? When rapport becomes rescuing, and trust me, in well-meaning coaches and myself, this is the invisible line that often gets crossed most often. When we care so much that we blur roles, when we start sending SMSs, a whole bunch of them between sessions saying, hope you're okay. When we become the fixer, not the facilitator. When we start saying, so glad you left that guy. Emotional over-identification, when we start carrying their pain. When we respond as friend, parent, or savior, and yes, the savior comes up too often. And again, I say, when we feel like we need to save our clients, that's arrogance. That's, again, forgetting that the client is whole. They are capable of saving themselves. They don't need us to save them. They need us to help them find their own savior, maybe. They need us to help them reconnect with the parts of themselves that will save them. They don't need for us to save them. No. And none of this means not caring. Hey, I mean, my root, as I described just very recently, is love, is caring. That's what allows me to be a great coach. I care about my client, but where does caring take away their agency or become solving? That's what we have to be wary of. And misreading the system, I think we got a question about this. I hope we'll have time at the end to talk about this. When we coach the individual without seeing the culture or the power dynamics shaping their behavior. Just 5 lines we often cross. And now I'm going to invite all of us to, before we step into, and of course, before we step into a room to work on this, just a simple sort of ethical integrity reflection tool that I put together, knowing that as coaches, we love our little checklists and tools. Sometimes as human beings, right? When things seem a bit too up there, it helps as an anchoring point to have. But my tool will mostly be a reflection tool. I'm going to put a huge disclaimer here. Don't think about this during the session. I know we are getting a lot of wisdom about how we need to be aware of what's happening in our body, in our mind during the session. But my point of view on that is slightly different. I'm like, in the session, focus on the client. Think about yourself after the session, before the session, ground yourself before the session, reflect on yourself after the session. During the session, if we devote ourselves to being fully present to the client, to being fully aware of the client, to noticing the client, our mental states will actually not derail us. Because you see, we're not functioning from our mental states. We are functioning from this shared space where we are offering our full presence to the client, not getting distracted by our performance. And I invite you to use this tool at the end of your coaching sessions, after you've taken your notes, and ask yourselves, did I act in a way that aligns with my deepest values and the coaching role that I committed to? What tensions arose? Did I feel off-center? Did I notice something which I didn't name? It's important for you to notice that and write that down. That will help you deal with it as you move further in the relationship. And this one, was I aware of the visible and invisible power I hold in this space? Did I name it? Check it. Let's be honest to ourselves. There is a power that we hold in that relationship, in any helping profession, not just coaching, in therapy, in all of those spaces. How responsibly we use that relational power is what makes us ethical. Notice what unspoken dynamics shape the space. Notice the person, the client. And touching on, I think, the somatic thing that one of you brought up, was I present in my body? Was I regulated? Was I attuned? Was I performing presence without feeling it? Ask yourself these questions to wonder whether you're rooted in ethical integrity. Yes, I'm going to share this, or invite you to just take a screenshot if you'd like, or just I will definitely share this. All of this is for you. And this is the exercise that we'll step into now. before we do that, is there something? I would like to know from Shweta if she believes that coachability is a real concept. I would love to answer that one. But to be honest, to the process that I committed to, I'm going to answer that one at the end. And yes, definitely have a conversation about coachability today. And now it's time for us to step into the breakout rooms where I'm going to invite everyone to keep it brief so that we have some time left to discuss those questions. You're going to be in pairs, and I think only one will get time to share. So I would invite any one of the two people in that room to quickly share a real ethical tension or dilemma, and for the other to just listen silently, not offer mentoring or answers, just offer one reflection at the end of it. What stood out for you, or what part of the attune model you just saw might support. That's it. So
Shweta, for how long you want the breakout room?
5 minutes.
Okay.
It's very brief, guys. You're going to have to make the most of it.
Yeah, 2 people per room, right?
Yep, 2 people per room.
Shweta, this attune is a brilliant one.
Thank you.
I mean, the word also says what it means, besides the fact that it elaborates.
It actually came out of a struggle to making those 4 concepts usable.
Okay.
Yeah, as Sandeep said, if we can have the attune slide displayed, probably we could have a screenshot dropped in the chat so people could refer.
Sure. Or maybe we could just, whoever's here, we could just unmute and have a quick chat amongst ourselves.
Yeah, possibly. So one of the dilemmas that I face is about going to the root cause of something that the client has been going through persistently, and that can easily take you in the past, which we know that we should not be doing in coaching. So my psychology hat comes up, and there is this urge to talk about any childhood experience or anything like that might be coming up. And what I do is then that, I say that the solution might lie there in the past, but we will not go there in the past in this session. But that is something that I will leave you with if you want to explore separately on your own or whichever way. So that's my dilemma, and that's the way I'm currently handling it.
Thank you for sharing that, Saurabh. May I offer something that's coming up for me as you're saying this?
Yes, please.
Not coaching here, obviously. So yeah, I have to remind myself that I'm free to offer answers. I'm presenting.
Yes.
But one thing that comes up is in coaching, what I see is that it's okay to visit the past as long as we don't stay there, as long as we don't get trapped there. But if we visit the past to draw from that and not get pulled into the story, I think that is a part of coaching. And also, with the specific example that you described, if it's that deep, then maybe it's about recognizing the boundary that is coaching what the client needs at this point. Do they maybe need some form of therapy? Might you want to suggest that maybe there's, something about their past that they need to make peace with through some other form of help? Or if you have that hat, say, maybe we could have a few therapy sessions for you to deal with, the past experience or the past trauma. So there is recognizing that there's some parts which may need a different kind of expertise. And if, unlike you, we're a coach who can't offer that to guide them there. But like I said, in a lot of cases where it's about just revisiting that moment without getting trapped there, using questions like, without getting into the story of that part, what did that teach you? Or what has stayed with you from that past experience that is relevant today? What has stayed with you from that past that is connected to the goal that we are working on here? The goal always helps us in coaching, right?
Yeah, that is something that has come to my rescue often, that when the client goes in the past, then how to bring them into the present, how is that experience affecting you or living with you in the present, etc. That's right. So,
So we honor the past, we don't dismiss
Yeah.
it.
Sorry, I was about to say, when we say that wearing a different hat, so my trainer said I usually get into a different contract with them. So I haven't gone that far, but what I do is, and you can, again give you a reflection, is that I can tell you what I think about this, or I can share my experience as a mentor here. But I just want you to know that that part is not coaching. So I do say that out loud, or I have often done is that, okay, let's complete our agenda for the day, the coaching conversation. And after that, if you have time, I can give you advice, or I can mentor from my experience, etc. So we do that, we complete the goal, and then I say, okay, is there anything else? No, okay, then do you still want to revisit that thing you asked me? I can share my experience. Then we do that. So again, I'm happy to hear your reflection on this approach.
That is, I'm in two minds about that. Some part of me is like, yeah, that's okay. I mean, as long as we meet outside the session. But before we go there, sometimes it does help to have that conversation with the client on, what's attracting them to the solution. Because I've learned that sometimes in that conversation, I discover that they're feeling broken or they're feeling incapable. And sometimes exploring that solves the whole thing. So sometimes, the very act of the client asking you for mentoring is a cry for help that you need to hear on something else.
It's a coaching situation in itself.
Yep.
Shweta, time is up.
Yes,
Can
please
you
bring
open?
everybody back.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for.
Thank you.
I often get lost in interesting discussions and lose track of them.
Thank you for your reflections. Sure.
Hey, Saurabh, thank you for, bringing it to this space. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming back here and not saying, okay, enough, we're getting out of this session for now. And if we have time, Saurabh, who was in the room with me, Saurabh Gupta, shared a very interesting dilemma that we often face in our coaching sessions. And we had a little chat about that. Maybe we can bring a little bit of that learning to everyone after we've debriefed this little exercise. So I'm going to invite all of you now. Wish we had time for more, but hey, just 70 minutes to this whole session. Okay, and yeah, I'm already seeing a reflection there. Conversation around ethics needs to become more mainstream. Yes, it so does. Thank you. And now I'm going to invite all of you to just drop a word or two words. What did you hear in the reflection that you did that expanded your own sense of ethical presence? Just a couple of words in the chat box. What have you heard that has expanded your own sense of ethical presence? Holding back. That's one. Presence versus performance, being whole. Thank you for bringing that out, Ruma, Preeti, Albika. Give it time. Oh, yes. Dropping expectations, reflective practice on ethics, mentoring tendency. The past of the client is not a taboo. Thank you for adding that, Saurabh. The coaching role I'm committed to. I love dilemmas, don't we all? And on a humorous note, completely off track, that's how we make our money, guys. Dilemmas. That's why the clients and the organizations reach out to us. Because of the dilemmas they have, which they can't solve. So yeah, I love dilemmas too. And thank you for sharing these lovely observations, understanding the realities biased due to past knowledge. Yes, client situation. Thank you. I wish I could read all of them, but somebody is going to definitely nudge me to move on if I don't do that myself. But thank you for sharing these with me. and with all of us here and allowing us to learn from each other. All of these are so true. And I think mentoring keeps coming up. This is something that, again, Saurabh and I discussed while we were left behind in this room, and which I'd like to share with you, how I invited again to say, every time a client asks for mentoring, yes, we have all of those solutions, offer to mentor them outside the coaching session, saying, may I, can we reserve this for once our coaching session is over, etc. And, all of those are very useful. There are situations where you might want to do that. But before that, I invite you to notice if the ask for mentoring is in itself a cry for help. If the ask for mentoring requires a conversation between you and the client on why they're feeling the need for mentoring in that moment. In my experience, I've learned just exploring that a bit deeper. The question I shared with you earlier, that what part of you is asking me for answers? What would help you trust your ability to find answers? And sometimes we find what's really broken, what's really coming in the client's way, when we invite them to a deeper conversation on why they're seeking mentoring, on why they think mentoring would solve their problems. Sometimes we learn the root of what is stopping them from trusting themselves when we have that conversation. So I'm going to invite you to use those mentoring moments as triggers for coaching even more deeply. So just that thought there. Another thought that had come up was about when the client delves too deeply in the past. And I shared the thought that the past is a place we can visit because it's part of the client, it's part of the wholeness of the client. As long as we don't stay there, as long as we remember to ask, how does this past affect who you are today? How does it influence what we are talking about here? As long as you remember to ask those questions and notice the boundaries where you might have to say that it sounds like you need to work on that more deeply. Where you maybe notice your boundary as a coach and say maybe you're not the right person to work with, say, the past trauma of a client more deeply and guide them to the right place. So just sharing with you some other thoughts that came up and leaving you once more with a tune, inviting you to just hold this for a moment and remind yourself of everything that you're holding there. So think about confidentiality too, which is another thing that comes up, a question that I'm often asked. Because you see, every coach carries dilemmas. We don't just resolve dilemmas, but we don't always carry them together. And sometimes the most ethical move, and I think you brought this up in the chat box, the most ethical move is to simply not walk alone. Is to find a shared space like this, or actually a better space where you can. And I think Vandana also brought out that point. Some of you brought that out, to remember that we need a shared space to walk through our own dilemmas before we can serve the client. And weaving confidentiality into this conversation, I'm going to give you 4 questions related to those 4 little boxes that I shared with you. How do I hold what was shared with me? I mean, we know the rules of confidentiality. But I'm going to ask you to ask yourself, how do you hold what is being shared with you in a way that honors the human and not just the agreement? As we look at the next box of integrity to our wholeness, I invite you to consider, am I speaking from wholeness and not trying to look wise, impressive, or relatable? As we look at authentic presence, I'm going to invite you to ask, what truths am I avoiding under the banner of confidentiality? Because you see, confidentiality is outside the session. In the session, we have a responsibility to the truth. Please keep that in mind. And on the systemic awareness lens, notice how confidentiality is shaped by the structures of power, of privilege, of access. I do hope that little chat you had about the dilemmas that we all carry was useful. And I would encourage you to find spaces where you can have these conversations with each other without the lens of those structured, they're useful, they're very useful. But sometimes have conversations without the lens of the structures, codes, and supervision competencies and mentoring competencies. Just have a chat with your fellow coaches. Or maybe a shared reflection. That's something I love to do. Pull out an attune model or the moral compass that Vandana shared with us and have a chat with a fellow coach about how it's showing up for them and how it's showing up for you. Those are some of the spaces where I learn a lot, and that's why I offer them to you as ideas. And because no conversation on ethics can be complete without talking about AI, I'm going to spend a few minutes here. Because yes, AI and digital coaching platforms, as they come up, ethics does get more complex. So what does, and I'm going to take you back to those 4 little boxes I shared. What does presence mean when the coach is a bot? What happens to confidentiality when the sessions are recorded by default? How vulnerable can we be right now in this online session knowing that it's being recorded? This is an example of systemic awareness, of knowing that we may not be bringing up full vulnerabilities to a recorded session.
Wow.
Balance.
That Shira is being slowly depleted, huh? Rata, I can see.
Beg your pardon? Sorry? I thought I had someone.
Stray conversation.
Okay, stray conversation about something getting depleted.
Coaching presence, maybe.
Coaching presence, yes. But just putting this out there, that when you think of those 4 boxes that I presented to you, I invite you to ask, can we have relational care with a bot? Can something which does not have a whole, and that's WHOLE for context, bring their wholeness into the conversation? So let's shift from a moment from this reflection from the coaching room to the cloud. And there's a lot of clouds right now, I think, in Mumbai and Delhi. But this is a different kind of cloud. We're living in a time where the edges of coaching are blurring. Bots are asking powerful questions. Apps are simulating active listening. AI remembers everything a client has said and tailors its responses. And I invite you to consider what happens when a machine can coach but cannot care. I think increasingly what AI is doing is it's not going to replace coaching. It's an invitation to us as coaches to raise the presence from which we coach, to evolve ourselves as coaches, to realize that ACC level coaching is something bots can deliver. My colleague Jonathan Passmore has done a whole test on that. A bot cleared the ACC competency exam for ICF, apparently, as part of his research. Model-based coaching can be replicated, but what can't be replicated is some of the things we spoke about today. Ethical presence. And guess what? Bots also have patterns. What they can't bring is the awareness of patterns. So as coaches, if you're not spending enough time becoming aware of your biases and patterns, well, you've lost one advantage you had over the bot. A bot can bring systemic awareness only as far as the data is provided to them. It's not science fiction anymore. We are entering a new ethical frontier, one where we are navigating human and digital boundaries. The parts that are very relevant to us is we need to take responsibility for data security of our clients, not just in our minds, but on our laptops, with the teams that work with us, with the teams that raise the bills and know the names of our clients. We need to take responsibility for all of that confidentiality. And as coaches, I'm going to invite all of us to think about how ethics in AI coaching isn't just about what machines can do, it's about what we should never delegate. I think ethics in the age of AI is about not whether it can coach, but whether it should coach. Because AI can mimic empathy, but it cannot bring relational care. It can be consistent, but it doesn't have an inner truth to align it. It can simulate presence, but it doesn't bring a self into the room. It can scale, but can it make systemically wise decisions rooted in human dignity? The question is, can you do all of these? Can we rise above the models and the learnings of the classroom? And if we can, then we're not going to be replaced by bots. Like I said, AI will not replace coaches. AI will most probably replace shallow coaching. It is an invitation for us to improve ourselves, to embrace the technology as an ally, but remember what should remain human. And remember to bring ethical presence, moment by moment, choice by choice, prioritizing the client over our performance. That's how we bring ourselves.
This presence is replaced by programming is a beautiful line.
Thank you. I discovered in my work that that's the one part that programming can't replace. And I mean, now, in that thing of ethics, I have been an investor to discover the possibilities in research, not in monetization, of a tool that will be able to read our facial expressions. I want to see the accuracy of that research. Mm-hmm. But hey, there's a lot that can happen in the future as AI is learning. Yeah. But presence, that's the ending reflection there. Sorry, jumped a slide. So we've spoken about a lot today. Right, I'm going to give you a moment to just stay with this. We've traveled quite a path. Visible rules, invisible lines, outer compliance, inner congruence, code to care, from clarity to complexity, because I know I took you there. That's one of my patterns, which is why I create those tools, because, you know, as a researcher, I was accused that if I don't make the complex concepts usable for people, then they're just useless. And moving from code to real care. And at the heart of it all for me is the quiet power of ethical presence. To come back, to remind ourselves that coaching is not about answers, it's about honest inquiry. And to kind of embrace that the reason why I don't call it ethical mastery is because the work of ethics is never done, because ethics is a practice for me. Ethics is a practice of returning. It's about returning to care, returning to congruence, returning to presence, and reminding ourselves to embrace human dignity, theirs and ours. It's about returning to these things. And that's what will allow us to show up, to be ethical, not to do ethics, not to live the code, but to embody an ethical human presence. That's my invitation to you today. And I thank you. I thank all of you as we start talking about the questions and whatever little bit of time that we have. Thank you for showing up the courage today. Thank you for your patience. I know that I fall madly in love with topics that I care deeply about. And I hope some of this made sense to you. I hope some of this connected with you and left you with value that you will take back. And I can see some of those yawns there. That's the danger of having your cameras on. I'm going to just leave you with 2 reflective questions for after the session. Where in your coaching practice might you be close to crossing invisible line? And we often cross invisible lines in our spirit of service, in an attempt to add value. What would it look like to choose ethical presence instead of performance? I invite you to reflect on these two questions. If there's something comes up with you that you'd like to share with me, please feel free to write to me. And I don't promise to respond very promptly. So just putting that out there. And that's it. Now, if we have a few minutes, I'd love to talk about some of the questions that may be coming up for you in the few minutes that I have. And I'm just putting my favorite slide here. This is something that comes at the end of a lot of my presentations to coaches. Nothing to do with ethics, but something I deeply believe in. Now, questions. The coachability thing. To answer that question, I do not believe people are inherently coachable or not coachable, but I do realize that they may not be in a coachable space in their lives at a given point of time. So the question then for me is the client ready for coaching? Which is why in my work, I actually have a readiness index, a whole tool that a client needs to fill up to reflect on their readiness for coaching. I don't make it a judgment because, hey, didn't we talk about how coaching is non-judgmental? And then we have the great people of coaching. I'm talking about Marshall here, talking so much about uncoachable clients. Like, let the client be the decider. I mean, when we are respecting their agency, let's respect their agency on this too. Give them tools to gauge. And yes, I too have walked away from engagements where an organization desperately wanted me to coach someone who was not in a space where they were ready for coaching, who were not coachable in that moment. And again, I tried to do it as gently and with the most effective tools that I could use, invited them to reflect on what they were ready to embrace at that point. And also have a coaching conversation. And yes, Ambuj, beautiful point there. It is also quite possible that the coach has not yet evolved enough to coach a particular client. That's why we have those, sorry, I got distracted by another interesting thought that was coming up in chat box. That's why I usually leave it. That's why we have that thought on, are you reflecting on your readiness? And that's why we have chemistry sessions to know if we are the right coaches for that individual, which brings me back to that wholeness, the integrity and wholeness that we talk about. When we get tempted to take on clients that we don't feel right coaching, that's also a violation of ethics. When we get tempted to take on clients when we can't see them as whole, that's also a violation of ethics. Because maybe we're not ready for those clients. Maybe the clients are not right for us. If we see too strong a values divide between ourselves and the client, we have to ask if we're ready. And one question I often get asked in the world of podcasts and exciting questions is, would you coach Trump? Would you coach this leader? Or would you coach whoever unpopular leader is in the force at that time? And my answer always is, yes, I would, if they were wanting to work on themselves, if they were wanting to look at themselves and change something within themselves to create an outcome that I could respect, then yes, I would work with them. I hope that answers some of coachability for you.
Shweta, thanks so much. You brought up topics that can last for a whole day beyond this, especially how you've talked about AI and you've raised some really, really interesting points there. But I think across whatever you've been telling us, these 4 dimensions, then the 5 invisible lines and attune. I think if we pay attention to that when we are coaching, that can inform us a lot about what is, the line of ethics, the thin ice that we are on, or, how we need to dance on that thin ice as a coach. Beautiful, Shweta. I really thank you on behalf of all of us for this session. And I love this end slide. You are enough. Your client knows the answers. Coaching works. At the end of the day, we must believe in that and ourselves and have courage to step up, because sometimes we are trying to perform within ourselves. We are shying away from presence and going to performance because that's the reality of the industry or the market. And I think when we don't believe enough in ourselves, we can't ask the client to believe in themselves. And this has been a really lovely, reflective, beautiful session. Shweta, thank you from all of us. And just to show you our appreciation, Nandini is going to flash something on screen. And then after that, we're all going to take photographs. So please all be on screen. Shweta, this is a certificate of appreciation from us. We will send you the digital copy to you personally. And we just want to once again appreciate what you've done for the last, hour and 10, 15 minutes with us.
Thank you, Dex. Thank you so much. And thank you all for allowing me to be here with you and share all this with you. And just because, I had to, I know I've spoken enough, but to shift from that metaphor of thin ice to remind ourselves, no, ethics isn't sometimes when we try to reduce and a concept into a model, we can make it sound more complex. And that's why I had that little heart in the end, because ethics, for all its complexity, is about loving yourself and loving the client. If we can those two things, we'll solve a lot of ethical dilemmas.
Yeah.
You
And
can
that's where
solve
the human beats
most of
AI.
ethics. You can solve most of ethics with authentic presence
Yeah,
and commitment to clients. That's it. 2 words.
very true. Very true. I love that 4-box matrix. It's such a beautiful way to start the whole conversation on ethical integrity. Wow, I think with every session, we are actually getting more insight. I mean, we all know about ethics. We've, as coaches, learnt about it. We know the ICF code, and those of us who have re-credentialed have been through the free video session, which informs us. But I think this is really valuable when you bring in the insight from your experience and how you have structured it and put it into something that is manageable in terms of yep. This is great. Thank you. Wish I could give you another month to speak with us.
We'll do a whole day on ethics sometime.
Yes, thank you. Tanaya, over to you.
All right. Thank you, Shweta. And time for a group picture. Our lunch break is just less than 10 minutes away. But before some of you might drop off, we want us to have a group picture, full house. Yeah, I see a lot of people turning on their cameras. So let's have multiple screens on and the bestest of your smiles that you can give just before lunch. Nandini, when you're ready.
Before coffee, Tanaya, lunch is still away.
Yeah.
You just gave away your age with that text. Our dependence on stimulants increases as
Very true.
Yeah, hold on, please. Just a moment.
Please warn us before you take the picture.
Yeah, one more time. Keep smiling. Yeah, keep smiling, right? Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Nandini.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Shweta. Have a lovely day ahead of you.
Thanks, Shweta. Lovely session. Every bit of it been excellent. I think people are asking your slides. I think more than the slides, of course, it will be shared that you're nodding for that. But I think people will be liking to connect with every slide of yours with what you said, actually. So thanks, Atan, for your presence, your sharing thoughts. I think people will be connected more to know more from you. And in case any of you have any dilemma, please contact Shweta. She may be responding late, but she will be. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, people. Now we move on to the next segment just before our brief break that comes up. We are going to be releasing the newsletter and sharing with you all for this month. Those who are the members for this chapter must have already received this via email, but we have a special message from the Director Publications for you all. So Nandini will shortly play that. And Nandini, you might have to share your audio along with the screen also if we can't hear. Yeah, and while she's doing that, we invite all of you to share your articles with us for the ICF Mumbai chapter's newsletter that is published monthly. So whether you are a part of this chapter or no, we are committed to bringing your voices to the world through our LinkedIn post, through our website, through the email list that we have. So do not hesitate to send your articles to us. We will shortly share with you the guidelines for doing so in the chat. And I think Naveen's video is ready for us.
Hi, my name is Naveen Tauro, and I am so thrilled to serve you as Director Publication of the ICF Mumbai Charter Chapter. We're so glad to have you here today at this Beyond 10 event for August. I am thrilled to bring to you the August 2025 edition of the ICF Mumbai newsletter, Voice. And what do we have here? We have controversy, which is always good in publishing. It's time for trauma-informed therapeutic coaching, is how the headlines of one of the articles goes. The question is raised, is it enough for coaching only to look at the future without engaging at the past, such as limiting beliefs, trauma, and what have you? Is it enough to load NLP over past unresolved deep layers? It is a challenge to the community to address this question, this fundamental question in coaching. Next, we have our cover story, which urges us to return to the coach within, so as to emerge clearer, more compassionate, and most deeply grounded in this impactful work of coaching that we engage in. And finally, coaching for that first promotion. Well, with the SITE model, which is self-awareness, identity, target group, and engagement, is how this next piece advises coaching in this regard. So read all about it, soak it in, and then share it widely. Don't keep these riches all to yourself. And here's how you can make your own voice heard and participate in this wonderful initiative, The Voice. And it doesn't matter that you're not part of the ICF Mumbai Charter Chapter. We are great hosts at ICF Mumbai. We are. Yes, we are. You can contribute by way of a half-page article at about 175 words, or a full-page article at about 375 words, with resonance to coaching. We only ask that you shouldn't have published this original contribution or have posted this anywhere else before. So add your voice to our voice, and together, let's change this world one voice at a time. How about that? Take good care now, and we'll see you soon.
All right, so that was Naveen Tauro, the director for publication. He's based in the US and couldn't make it. It's going to be odd time for him. And Nandini will share on the screen the cover page for the newsletter this month, and also drop in the chat for your reference and reading and sharing widely the newsletter for this month. And we will also shortly drop in the chat the SOPs for submitting your articles to the ICF Mumbai Charter Chapter's newsletter. The deadline is the end of each month, and we publish it in the order that they have been received. So that's going to be coming in the chat as well for you all. And with both the things coming in the chat, we will disperse for a break, whether it's tea, coffee, lunch, whatever in your context. But we will begin at 12:20. So you get 24 minutes of break from now. So to ensure that we let you out on time and probably also give you some networking time, we request you to come back, stretch, connect with your loved ones, and we will see you at 12:20.
I think you also need to take a break. ICF Mumbai Charter Chapter screen is still on. I was just wondering, the organizer also needs a break? That's me speaking.
Yeah, I think we are taking a break for everyone, and soon we'll be joining. And I think, Shweta, it'll be nice if you can also have a cup of coffee or tea. We wish we could have served you, but somehow it's a virtual. Thank you.
You take Sanjeev on that the next time you're in Mumbai.
Yeah, it's on me, Shweta, whenever you're next in Mumbai.
For sure.
And call all of us also.
Thank you.
It would be my honor and pleasure to interact with the amazing leadership team of Mumbai. I mean, Sanjeev, Dexter, Sandeep, I mean, all great guys, yeah. I have to learn so much from you.
I always say that I've got a magical team, and they put up such a big challenge in front of me and they make me to say yes all the time. So they're so influential, so convincing, and they bring all the wonders from the world across the world. And one of them are you.
Nicely said, Sanjeev. That will get you an extra cup of coffee.
Now, Shera, I think we wish we could have invited you in person, but I think it was as you know that in 10th year of celebration, we are either going for one day or half day workshop. But sometimes, like in the seasons like the rains and the rest, we need to go to virtual. Otherwise, it's in person. And every event has, uh, increased the benchmark for us. So it's always, and they create these barriers, not me. So I'm just to say, yes, that's my job is as a president, nothing more.
No, I think you created this wonderful space for us to have these conversations, and that's why I chose the celebration background. But I was like, let's celebrate. 10 years is a big deal.
Yes, we have some of these backgrounds for different occasions, but we are celebrating. And I'm sure, I think, and we have done a lot of collaboration with the 10 chapters. The last month we had in total collaboration with Delhi chapter. And likewise, we have some chapters from India, some from overseas.
We have Colombo at this session.
Colombo is here in today's
I know, I
session.
saw Anushli.
Anushli.
Yeah.
Next, in September, we have Kuwait and Philippines, as well as Netherlands.
Wow. And Anushli is a prominent voice in ethics. She's
Yes.
one of the first people who ever invited me to speak on ethics was Anushli as part of the communities of practice on ethics.
Is that so?
And in an interesting coincidence, I am traveling to Colombo next month to speak at the ICF Colombo conference.
Yes, the September 24, 25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Conclave. Right.
There.
Yeah. But in
I think
September, come to Mumbai in December. We have some celebration in store. We'll not reveal everything now, but you can get coffee and more.
I'm always, like I said, that's why I chose a celebration. I'm always up for a celebration, Dexter.
Yeah, it is. You can just make a note, maybe on 20th of December, and as
20,
as Dexter said, we can't say anything more at the moment. Just make a note if you are here. We'll be really rejoicing together.
Great. Always.
Are others also invited, Sanjeev?
Everyone.
Yeah, of course, yes. Of course, yes.
I'm eavesdropping.
By all means. We have a lot of things in the keeping to our chest, but yes, when the time comes, we'll be opening the cards, and a lot of things are there. I mean, the team is really putting a lot of pressure, and the chapter is also demanding now. And they put the names by name, they are asking, so I need to serve them.
Your plant is still growing in my house, Sanjeev. So I see beyond 10 every morning as I water.
Beautiful. How nice. So for this MC, I think she's talking about the plant what we when that was our first
Correct.
launch in March and sorry April, and when we gave it to and one I carried for you to Hyderabad.
That's what I'm saying. The grace and it was so beautiful. I mean, just for people who are here who don't know the context, ICF Mumbai celebrated the 10 years with a beautiful plant, self-watering plant, and Sanjeev was kind enough to carry one for me all the way to Hyderabad. And that plant has traveled a lot. It went from Mumbai to Hyderabad, then it came from Hyderabad to Delhi with me, and it's still thriving.
It's all about connectivity.
And the love.
Yes, it is.
And plants feel that. Plants feel the love.
The J plant is all about prosperity. Good.
And thank you for putting together this amazing session. I mean, and that's why I'm here. I can't wait to hear the rest of it. And I have had a lot of my business friends also who say like, oh yeah, ethics is something we also face every day when we want to hear this. Great recording coming up.
Yeah.
I think it's something I think what I have understood now is all about how we live our life, the daily life. And this coaching has really cemented the entire belief system. And it's all about, we are always at the crossroad. So what is right and what is right to do is all about the question every moment in the life. And as you rightly said, it's a simplicity of that instead of getting into complications. And all this complexities becomes more complex for the complex people.
Most of us are complex, right?
Yeah, the moment we become simple, it's okay.
Yeah. I like to say we are layered and nuanced.
And in fact, that is what we have in the concluding session.
Yes.
A pure demonstration of how if you stay simple and you can curb on your ego, how simple does it become to remain like that for, almost 8 decades now. So we have Mr. Pathan, who will be sharing about his journey.
Can't wait to hear that. That's what I'm saying. I can't get away, even though, the hunger is reminding me that maybe I should have, like, no, I have to attend this session.
I have, in fact, seen the fruits of ethics quite an early stage of my career. And especially in Tata's. I started off with Tata Steel and I was there for more than 18 years. Everything I've seen, where the transparency, where, dealing with the government officers and everything, how ethical they've been there, and I've been witness to everything. I will not give the cases, but yes, I felt every step of that, what speaks volume of it. Files can get stuck, no issues, no problem. But no goose, nothing. Let it be where it is. But then there's a time when it will start moving. And the time came when files may be moving were faster because nobody expected anything coming from Tata Steel. So it's better to dispose of the file instead of holding the files. So ethics does play the role. And that's why my learning was, and it is helping me in the coaching and living the life. But yes, there's always some surprises where I do get challenged. But I think being straight, facing it, even if it's a hurdle, like one of the actors in South, I don't remember his name, he said, I'll not pay the toll fee because there's so many of gaddhas around on the road for what I'm paying. And he stayed there for 7.5 hours. Saying, I'll not pay, I'll stay here. And finally, he was allowed and it went up to the ministry, transport ministry, and they had to take action. That's what ethics pays. The honesty pays. We can't do that, all of us, to be honest. But let's face it, to the extent you can and I can.
Yes, and I think an important part, I think coaching therefore becomes such a beautiful space for us to embrace the diversity of expression of an ethical
Hi, this is
stand.
Prasad here.
Be ethical for one sounds unethical for another, and if we can just, that's why I said if we can be present with what we are doing and whether it is in congruence with how we want to show up in our lives, as you said so beautifully, that's so important.
Yeah, Shida, I think what you're saying is right. And when it comes to road touching tire touching the road, the reality comes up. In the LinkedIn, etc., you will see a lot of stories, and you see how many reactions to those kind of posts are. Then much more than giving gyans on the LinkedIn. I've seen somebody. I think 2 days back, I saw that a guy, he paid 20,000 to there's some traffic guys. Why is a penalty? And he was asked just 2,000. He said, "Sorry, I will not. I'll prefer to pay 20,000 than 2,000 goose." He didn't pay 2,000 goose. Bribery he didn't. How many of us can do that? We feel good about it. We may say thumbs up, we play hard, we clap. But when it comes to me, can I? That's the time that ethics plays the role. And that's where I say, when the tire touches the road, can I do that? If you do that, you're living the best of your life.
How many of us have the means
So we have Mr. Pathan in the room.
Oh, wow.
to
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to listen to the people who live the life the way they say, the way is the way they walk, they talk.
And
that's where the life is.
How and what we are talking about in terms of what magnitude, it's amazing. Myself and Dexter have interacted with him, and he can explain the aura which he'll bring to the session.
Beautiful. Sandeep, you were saying something. Sandeep.
No, I was just hearing the conversation on ethical practice on the gentleman having paid that 20,000. This is very fresh in my mind, 2 incidents. I was traveling with some coaches in a car and got halted by the traffic cop because we had violated something. And the discussion was on ethical, but the coach landed up bribing the traffic guy. Just saying that. But at the same time, a real example wherein we did something wrong or didn't do something wrong, but the number plate has gone a mandate to have the updated number plate, which we didn't have it. The traffic guy insisted on paying the fine, which we duly obliged to say and say we'll pay it electronically. And that guy very nicely said that, "Sir, aap electronically pay kar rahe hain, isliye main aapse nahi lunga." Let you go. No fine.
Very good, very nice. So we have a lot of people in the life who impress us by doing the right things. It's all on us that how much we learn from them, how much we imbibe in our life. For me, every person I interact with, there's always a lot of takeaways from them.
And if I may just, play a bit of devil's advocate here, in that way, humans need the ethics is simple, and we must consider all the other lenses. We need to see some of these examples through. I mean, that 2K versus 20K example that you gave, there may be people out there who don't have the means to pay that. But what I would rather invite is a reflection on what needed that fine. Was there a violation, and how could we change a system that normalizes violations? That allows that maybe through, and that's actually worked through the ethical question to the traffic policeman about what are they trying to do at that moment. And if you choose to follow the rules and you're confident in you're following the rules, then people also hesitate to ask you for a bribe. So there's always these, and I'm going to invite us to, for a moment, take off that judgmental lens from the coach who paid the bribe, or that moment. And that's what I mean about systemic awareness, till I have the fuller context of that moment. I'm not going to assume that somebody who gave $100 to a cop is inherently unethical. I'm going to want to understand what really happened there and what needs to change to create an ethically congruent person in the future. Because when we start simplifying it to the point of judging it too much as right and wrong, then we actually block people and make them incapable of growth, because psychologically we get blocked when we feel judged. So coming at this again from my favorite frames of love, empathy, and systemic awareness, that sometimes we need to stop reducing things to simple right and wrongs, not to excuse wrong behavior, but to understand what are the contexts and the enablers of some of those things. And videos on the internet are sometimes so well, how do I say, scripted, that I don't know what is real and what is not. But I would really invite us to consider how many people in that world may have the means.
For me, I think what you're saying is right, and it's all about how much is my circle of influences. I cannot change the world, I know that, but I can change where I can. I need to, and that starts from me.
That's standard we are setting, and that's standard we are finishing to at Lodha House.
Hi, this is Prasad here.
Yeah, Prashad, please.
The last 20 minutes of fireside chat has been extremely interesting.
I'll leverage this head on that if some amenities have taken longer than any of us has hoped. Work is
That's not my background. Sorry.
Okay, I think somebody's been talking to, I think, someone and is distracting. Yeah, please, Prashad, you can start.
I was saying that the last 20 minutes of fireside chat has been extremely interesting.
These are the, which when I was in the training in Tatas, and people used to take the feedback after the training sessions, right? And that's what we've been told initially when I joined. But later on, I understood it's not about the feedback at the formal feedback. It is all about having the feedback overhearing either at the breaks near the water pod, or otherwise in the restrooms. The real feedback comes out there. And I think this is the real feedback which is coming here on ethics.
Yeah, I mean, getting to know about the culture that you had in TCS, and then the experiences of people in with policemen, traffic policemen. These are all everyday life, right?
This is a life. And coaches, if they have two sides of their life, I think we need to correct first, and we need to live one life.
Yeah.
Exactly. So beautifully said, Sanjeev. And in the short term, when sometimes we feel being too ethical is coming in our way, but in the long term, it always benefits. And there's nothing better than good sleep at night because your ethical conscience is clear.
Yeah,